livelihood. So that's why this particular goal, and there'll be a lot of discussions around how to coordinate the Ramsar Convention responses with other responses, for example, under the Sustainable Development Goals, making sure that there are very clear national action plans and targets and indicators in relation to the convention. So the states are not just paying lip service to the convention, but actually taking specific action to protect wetlands now and in the future.
And looking at some of those resolutions or duties of the contracting parties, perhaps you could share one resolution that was made from the previous Conference of the Parties, and what the expectations for the Conference of the Parties 15 would be. Have they changed? What is it that contracting parties are really moving forward for in terms of wetland preservation?
A central theme from the last COP that is moving into this COP is what I mentioned, which is mainstreaming wetlands in global environmental agendas. And as Zimbabwe takes up the presidency of the Ramsar, it will be Zimbabwe leading that charge, representing Ramsar at international, like UN summits and biodiversity summits, for example, making sure that the Ramsar Convention is mainstreamed. And a resolution was also passed last time on wetlands and climate change, formally recognizing wetlands as nature-based solutions to climate crises. And I think that's a big push now. If you recognize wetlands as nature-based solutions, then it should allow for opportunities in relation to climate finance. So in Zimbabwe, we have quite strong carbon trading regulations now, for example. So I think there'll be quite a push for wetlands to also be recognized as carbon sinks, so that protection of wetlands can also be seen as potential carbon trading projects, for example. And then, synergy with other multilateral environmental agreements will still be a main focus brought from the last COP. And another big emphasis that will continue into this COP is for youth engagement. So at the last COP, they established youth focal points and programs to increase young people's participation in Ramsar governance and actions. And then some of the draft resolutions to look out for, there's a wetland restoration and freshwater challenge, which is calling on states for action to restore wetlands across ecosystems. So Ramsar parties and partners will pledge specific actions like designating or expanding Ramsar sites, focusing on freshwater ecosystems, implementing restoration projects, and improving policies that protect freshwater biodiversity. There'll also be a draft resolution on Earth observation and geospatial and Earth observation wetlands tools. So that's basically using satellite monitoring and data governance in relation to wetlands, so that you can better monitor wetlands and any changes to your wetlands.
And then at Zimbabwe, we're actually
co-sponsoring a resolution on wetlands and what are called OECMs, other effective area-based conservation measures. So OECMs are areas that are not officially protected areas, but still achieve effective and long-term conservation of biodiversity. And they contribute to ecosystem conservation and are often managed by indigenous peoples, local communities, or other stakeholders. And they complement formal protected areas by covering important biodiversity sites that lack formal protection. So basically the point is to expand and strengthen wetland conservation efforts beyond designated Ramsar sites by officially recognizing and leveraging these OECMs.
So that's the one that we're sponsoring and want to look out for, but there are so many that are being put forward. So it's an exciting...
It definitely is very exciting. I mean, I wish I could join you. Fiona is on her way there tomorrow. for the conference. But before we let you go, I know that you have to, excuse me, you have to get on and get packing. But what are we doing domestically? How have we localized our efforts to protect the environment? How have we localized wetland preservation? Perhaps in closing, you could just refer our listeners to any existing laws in Zimbabwe that are in operation looking at protection of wetlands.
Yes, sure. So we have a lot of environmental laws in Zimbabwe. We've signed up to quite a few of the international treaties like Ramsar, like the UN Convention on Biodiversity, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol. And these treaties are binding on Zimbabwe once they've been approved by Parliament, but they still are supposed to be incorporated into our domestic law by acts of Parliament. That's because Zimbabwe is a dualist state. So some states are called monostates, others are dualist. If you're a monostate, then an international treaty automatically becomes part of domestic law once you ratify. If you are a dualist state like Zimbabwe, it has to be domesticated through an act of Parliament. Unfortunately, the Ramsar Convention hasn't yet been domesticated. So we don't have a specific act of Parliament related to wetlands related to the Ramsar Convention. And there are, specific provisions that would expect in a convention ratifying the Ramsar Convention, like designation and conservation of Ramsar sites. Currently, we have no specific legal protection for Ramsar sites. Provision on maintenance of the ecological character of wetlands, that's called the wise use principle. Establishing nature reserves on wetlands. Provisions around wetlands management and wardening, education, research and awareness, monitoring and reporting, and international cooperation in wetlands management. That said, it's not that we don't have anything. We have quite a lot in Zimbabwe. Of course, our constitution is quite progressive. We have the right to a clean and healthy environment in Section 73, and that's the supreme law. So all other laws are supposed to be interpreted in accordance with the constitution. And then our Environmental Management Act also has quite progressive environmental principles and rights and specific provisions related to wetlands. So you can't, for example, disturb a wetland without written authorization from the Environmental Management Agency. And if it's a prescribed project, which includes drainage of wetlands, a housing project, mining, for example, then you need to go through the full environmental impact assessment procedure. So you'd need to instruct an EIA consultant to prepare a prospectus. Then if that's approved, you need to go through a full report process. And technically that's supposed to include stakeholder consultation. And we have regulations of Statutory Instrument 7 of 2007 that provide the procedure for that EIA process. Unfortunately, the way the EIA regulations process is working at the moment is kind of failing to protect wetlands because projects, the EIA reports that are going in, even in relation to Ramsar sites, are often still being approved by the Environmental Management Agency. The EIA consultants are not necessarily identified in their reports that this is a wetland, this is a Ramsar site. And even if they do, the agency is not necessarily then
rejecting the application. So, but there have been some positive steps. So since 2021, I don't know if you remember, there were that terrible flooding in Chipfunde. There was quite a move after that to take various initiatives. So there was nationwide mapping done by ZINSA.
And that produced the National Wetlands Master Plan. And there were also wetlands management guidelines developed in a national wetlands policy. And then in 2022 and 2023, certain urban wetlands in Epwo, Chipfunde and Harare were gazetted as ecologically sensitive areas. And there was another gazetting certain rural wetlands. Unfortunately, although those wetlands were designated as ecologically sensitive areas, other than demarcating them, they weren't given any additional protected status.
So the Gazette to go through the EIA process, which is the same for all wetlands. So we don't have any provisions that say this is a no-go area, this is a Ramsar site, this is a protected area, so you can't develop, you can't mine. So it allows for loopholes and human error and bad actors.
Definitely it does. So some homework for us there, and lobbyists. So Fiona, we're going to have to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation, and I'll come back into the studio with Mr. Akili, as well as Lisbern, who'll be joining us to speak to some of issues around specific Ramsar protection in Harare. Thank you so much, Fiona, and all the best in Victoria Falls. We look forward to catching up with you upon your return. Thank you so much, Fiona. And now coming back into the studio, Akili, a lot, quite a lot there happening in terms of what the conference represents. Also, I think it was interesting to hear how, as Zimbabwe, we've gone as far as identifying sites, but then there's no added protection. And I mean, just as a point of departure from there, as an association, please share some of your perspectives, some of residents' perspectives around preservation. But we can't ignore some of the degradation of wetlands happening in Harare as we speak.
Thank you so much. And the three of them, they are in Harare. And this is very, very important for us as Hararians because of the ecological services that can be able to be offered by these wetlands. Unfortunately, as you have been saying, that in as much, like Fiona highlighted some, I would say some gaps within the policy framework, which has also seen, some of our wetlands being degraded. One thing which we have observed, a threat to wetlands has been land invasions. We have seen, like in Harare, open spaces which are wetlands. We have seen people invading such and building houses, and even to some extent, we have also seen the total ignoring of the ecologically sensitive areas. A map. Remember, they are also gazetted, but also it has been ignored in the spatial planning processes of the local authority. Hence, you see that some of probably the wetlands which are on the map, probably now there are houses on them, and it's very, very I would say discouraging to then see that some of these important wetlands, they are degraded. Like when you look at Cleveland Dam, which is also a designated Ramsar site, the level of illegal sand mining happening there, it is very, very worrying. So again, remember, this is protected by international law. But again, Fiona highlighted that some of these laws, if they are not approved by Parliament, because the constitution is very, very clear that when we enter into such treaties, they need to be then approved by Parliament. So again, you actually see that the level of degrading of wetlands in Harare is also seriously impacted. When you look at, I always give this example when I came to this, I come to this radio station, the level. I just want to share with you, probably, I would say, in one indicator which we have seen, contributing to the degradation of wetlands. To those who have done research, you would realize that in the 80s, even though there were droughts, but you could actually see that the second and the Harare dams, they would spew, and then that bridge where the accident happened, you could actually see water continuously flowing, because upstream in Epworth, the wetland was still intact. There was no disturbance of that ecosystem. But because of now, you could actually see that for the past 3 years, if you have noticed, the city of Harare decommissions Prince Edward Waterworks due to lack of water in the dam, because we no longer have recharge of water into the stream that then feeds into Lake Chivero. This also Lake Chivero, yeah. But also even upstream there, Seke Dam and Harava, because remember the Prince Edward Waterworks, which is situated near Chipfunde, is there. So you actually see that, and every year, if you look around September, October, even until November, even until December, they decommission that water purification plant, because there will be no water in the dam, and we will lose around 80 megaliters of water because of that, because Prince Edward Waterworks produces between 70 to 80 megaliters of water per day. So actually, during October and whatever, you could actually see that that's why also we sink in a water crisis in Harare. So you could actually see the impact of the degradation of wetlands, because wetlands, they have that they play that the ecological services, as Fiona highlighted, water purification, and then water provision and water storage. But also to add on to that, you could actually see that even downstream in Lake CHRA, which is a wetland again, it's heavily polluted. We saw last year, I think when I was with the mayor here, he was speaking around that some rhinoceros were having diarrhea, but you could actually see some, animals, they died, and because of the cyanobacteria. I think all of us, we heard of that, and even fish dying because of cyanobacteria and the toxins which are then released by cyanobacteria. And this is a wetland. For your information, Lake CHRA and Manyame, they are designated wetlands.
Of international
significance. So again, these are some of our perspectives to say, I think what we can be able then to do, we, like from Fiona, he talked about restoration of some of these wetlands. I think this is the agenda going forward as a country, to say, how do we then move fast in terms of restoring these wetlands. But also, we have always said we need to localize this. I think that is very, very important. Our agenda is there. We are saying, let's localize this, because when you look at some of these all wetlands designated, they fall within local authority areas. But again, also remember, local authorities are planning what? Authorities. So again, they need also at local level, there is that need to recognize the importance of wetlands. So in our ordinances or bylaws, we really need to start to then to say, recognize the wetlands at that level, but also again guided by policy, which Fiona said we might need a wetland act within our laws. And furthermore to that, I think what is also very, very important and fundamental is that as Hararians, I think there is also that need to declare Harare a wetland city. And again, it's provided for in the Ramsar Convention. Like I think Victoria Falls, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
So again, to that, we are then strengthening protection of the wetlands within Harare. Because when it's declared the wetland city, meaning that also we are putting more significance to Harare as a city in terms of wetland protection. So those are some of our perspective around wetlands. And again, our thinking, Rumbi, is that any management of wetlands should be premised on community stewardship, and the communities realizing the importance of these wetlands. And even Fiona started talking about the issues around carbon credits. To say, if we are protecting a wetland in let's say in the Cleveland area, how much carbon is it absorbing, and also what is also the economic benefits of it. We need to start to have that conversation. And also, even I think Fiona talked about other wetlands which are not then protected by international law. But this is very, very important to then start to communities spearhead some of these conservation or protection or wetland management initiatives, so that at the end of the day you could actually see the benefits. Because the communities, when they begin to see the benefits, the economic benefits, the social benefits, and also even the other benefits, the health benefits, they can also be able to then to appreciate the role of wetlands. I'll give for an example, Fiona. I think Fiona was talking about Fiona was talking about SDGs and wetlands. Yes. And when you look at what happened at Lake CHRA, fish was dying, and even I think the government then issued a moratorium that no more fishing at Lake CHRA. But what does it mean in terms of the economic impact to the people who are surviving with the fish in that area? And this is very, very important, because there are some people also who are relying on these ecosystems. So we need also to understand that these ecosystems, they provide services, water security, food security, economic, value and even employment opportunities to the people. Hence, again, I think that the then putting youths around this conversation is very, very important, because it's their future that we are tampering with right now. So again, they need a voice in the wetland management, or participate. Their voice is very, very important in the management of these, important ecosystems, because I think all of us, we know that Africa is a youthful population, including Zimbabwe. So again, their voice matter a lot in terms of then how we manage these special ecosystems. So going forward, even as CHRA, we have started also even. You were asking me who are going to. So we have said, youths, you need to go and then echo your voice there.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you've sent the young people.
Yeah, the young people, so they go and then they can be able to to speak some of the issues which you are talking around, so that at the end of the day their voice can be heard. But again, I'll tell you that this is an opportunity for Zimbabwe to reignite the agenda of wetland conservation, because protection and even conservation, and even to start to realize some of the benefits that can be able to accrue in terms of wetlands. This is a big opportunity, and also even a country assuming a presidency of this big convention. It's very, very important. And again, we then need to show leadership. We always say that when we're in school, we need to show leadership. And lastly, what I wanted to say, Rumbi, when Fiona highlighted the issue around EIA, we have heard media reports that about more of 150 applications have been made, to this way in media reports that 150 applications have been sent, to the agency, asking for to
destroy wetlands.
Exactly,
basically.
and this is worrying. So again, this is, I would say, when I was coming here, I was thinking that this is a trial, of the agency at the moment, because now we assume the presidents of the
of Ramsar.
Yeah, of Ramsar, and 150 people are asking, to then allowed to build what on wetlands, or to do their project on wetlands, and that alone, I think we at this moment, again, the agents, we need also to show leadership, to ensure that some of these important areas are protected. And remember, the agents, that's also its role. They've tried their best, but I think they can do better. And again, as residents, we have done our part, but again, we can also be able to do better.
I like that, you've already gone into the importance of raising awareness within communities, the importance of these wetlands, and also expectations of what this conference will do to Zimbabwe and Zimbabwean communities. I would have loved to have had, all right, okay. We are joined now. I wanted us to speak to Mr. Chipfunde as well, so that we can hear from the Harare city on these issues. So Lisbern Chipfunde is the environmental manager for Harare City Council. Mr. Chipfunde, good evening.
Good evening.
I hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Very well and hearing the show.
Ah, wonderful. We like to hear it. I'll jump straight to it. We're excited as a country to be hosting Ramsar. We have 7 Ramsar sites. 3 in particular are in the city of Harare. But Chipfunde, there's been a concern, and even some of the panelists here have also highlighted. I think currently there are 150 applications that have been made to, or with Emma rather, to have wetlands turned into construction sites and otherwise. But as a city of Harare, can we look into some of the issues, particularly building on wetlands, degradation of wetlands? Perhaps you can share the city council's efforts towards preserving and conserving wetlands.
Yes, I'm sure the residents and ratepayers of Harare are aware that the city of Harare is currently in the process of developing a new master plan for Harare. After the expiry of the 1993 to 2013 master plan. So in the new master plan, issues to do with ecosystem management, where the wetlands fall in, have been given high priority to ensure that we then protect these wetlands, given the fact that the wetlands are our sources of water. They are protect the biodiversity. They also do a flood attenuation if they are working properly. So all the issues to do with the environment, using on the model of the ecosystem management, have now been catered for in the master plan. That stakeholders have also been contributing, including the residents and ratepayers of Harare. The master plan will be put on depositing all the various district offices so that people can comment and see how the concerns of the people of Harare and the residents and ratepayers are catered for.
Mm-hmm. And moving into, issues of whether it be illegal constructions and so forth, but we've seen quite a number of buildings or housing settlements sometimes going up in wetlands. What is the City Council doing about this, and what are the penalties effective for someone who builds in a wetland, or, once the statutory instruments are gazetted, or I think they've been gazetted and implemented, someone is building on a wetland of important significance? I know it was saying in the City Council, Panisha Murkuita way.
Yes, under the Department of Urban Planning, we have a division which is called Development Control, which is headed by a manager for Development Control. Most of the developments, some of the developments that have taken place on wetlands are actually illegal development, in as much as people may see them physically there. The challenge that the state actually has is, I think, in terms of Section 74 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, if someone builds a house and there are people living there, it becomes a home. So constitutionally, you cannot easily then go ahead and demolish. So there are legal processes that the city has to go through the courts. So this is a very tedious process, which involves countermeasures also from the people who have developed those in the wetlands. So when you then see demolitions happening, the court would have issued eviction orders. That's why now you will see the city of Harare moving in to demolish. It's not that there will not have been communication to alert people that where you are developing then illegal, but this is an illegal development. But we have a number of those that the city is taken through the courts and they are still being handled under the court. So the process is long, and we are very alive to these processes. Once they have gone through the court, which is a legal requirement, the city moves in to take the necessary measures to remove. The wetlands in Harare, so far a total of 49 have been gazetted. What it means that for that development to be permitted, the developer must apply to the Environmental Management Agency. There are processes where even when the EMA refuses, they can appeal to the minister. So ideally, the issue is about protecting these wetlands. So you will find that in most of these places, there has not been any application that has been made. Or if they have been made, some of them have been turned down by the Environmental Management Agency. So it is basically people who are illegally developing, mostly in those places.
I do appreciate the due process involved, Mr. Chipfunde, but the question sometimes is, it's almost like the city waits until a full house has been constructed. Why can the city not come in and demolish when it's, when there are bricks, when CHRA foundation?
Move in during the night, like between today and tomorrow morning.
Tinomuka vatovaka.
In terms of section, the Constitution, section 74 of the Constitution, you cannot then move in and demolish. You then have to go through the courts for them to then enable you to visit. But those people would have been notified that the place that you occupy, you have done so illegal. But they still continue, but because our legal system does not allow us to then quickly then move in. Between now and tomorrow morning, a two-room house can be built.
I don't know about these people building Nicodemously, but I'll leave it there. We perhaps will take up that conversation in a different forum, well, the same forum, but at a different date and time. Before I let you go, Chipfunde, what does this historic measure of Zimbabwe hosting Ramsar, also getting into the presidency of Ramsar, how important is this for the city council, and what are your expectations for the conference and beyond?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're aware that there's Africa, there's a regional bloc. There are decisions that are made to how we can best protect and manage our wetlands, which are then taken to the world body for Ramsar, where decisions are made, which decisions, as a local authority, we need them to take in and put them in our local policies. And coincidentally, as a city, we are currently developing the environment and climate policy. So almost we consulted every district and one in Harare. So we have waited that this conference comes in, and then we co-opt all the decisions that are trending with the current trend, and we put that into our, when I say our, I mean residents and ourselves as officials. We put that as current, and then we are able to then interact and also get best practices, which are being practiced in other countries. You also realize that in Victoria Falls, we have a number of countries that have come from all over the world. So we are exchanging views. We are of best practices. Which best practices we are hoping that this year we will then produce our environment and climate policy, which will then guide all issues to do how we deal with these truant people. How we want as a city a stakeholder engagement driven with a wetland management system. That is what I may say for now.
Thank you so much. It's a good place for us to wrap up the conversation. We're fast to run out of time. Allow me to thank my guests this evening. We were speaking there to Fiona, ILLIF. We also spoke to Mr. Ruben Akili. He's in the studio, and we were joined there over the line by Environmental Manager for Harare City Council, Mr. Lisbern Chipfunde. We are very, very positive and looking forward to great recommendations that will be put into effect for the preservation and protection of our wetlands. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Akili. Thank you, Mr. Chipfunde in absentia. Thank you to Fiona as well for being part of the conversation. Thank you and good night. With that, the time is exactly 8 o'clock. It's time for the news.